You've been brainwashed since you were born. You don't believe me? Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably think this is the right path. You study, then you're gonna meet someone, you're gonna marry that person, gonna buy a house or an apartment, get a brand new car, then you're gonna go travel, then have kids, a dog, a couple of cats, and then you will live happily ever after. Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but this is BS, and I'm gonna prove it to you. Because think about it. Man number one goes through that path, and then after what, 5, 10, 20 years of marriage, goes through a divorce and loses at the best just half of his shit. Everything he worked for his own life, he's gonna lose it all. So this nice house that you see right here, poof, gone. Magically, she's gonna get it most of the time, as well as the kids, alimony, and child support. Yet society wants you to believe that this is the right thing to do. This is the right path for a man nowadays. Now let's talk about man number two. Man number two is single, he's focusing on himself, enjoys the company of ladies when he wants to, and when he doesn't want, he's just gonna stay alone. He's gonna keep on growing his wealth, yet society wants to label him as a failure. Now the question is, what does society want you to think that man number one is a success despite losing everything and just basically offering his life work and his life wealth to someone who can just divorce in a heartbeat, while man number two is labeled a failure because he doesn't go through the code of society, he doesn't go through the norm. And the answer is simple. They only want you to believe this so they can keep on feeding on you. So in this video, I'm going to share my experience on the topic, and I'm going to tell you what I would do if I had to start over again. So personally, I think I made all the mistakes in the book. I actually followed that path. I studied, more or less chaotically, but eventually I ended up where I wanted to be. Then I met someone, and we both thought, hey, the next logical thing to do is we're gonna get married, right? This is, how it happens in Disney movies. You just fall in love and live happily ever after. So we got together. She had an apartment at the time, but somehow I knew it's not right to live, in my wife's place. So pretty fast we decided upon buying a house. Man, we got the cars. And then guess what? We had the kids. So the whole 9 yards. The only thing we didn't get is the dog, but we got cats though. And then after a few years, the marriage was a total mess. It became almost a sexless marriage, which is what is going to happen to a lot of people who are getting married. Because what they don't tell you in the Disney movies is that at one point, if you don't see your wife as your lover, as a mistress, then you're going to start seeing her as your roommate, your sister. Ew. But guess what? She's also going to see you as her roommate or as a brother. Because this is what society teaches us. You have to be the nice guy. You have to do the house chores at 50-50. And, everything should be shared. And you should abandon this toxic masculinity. I wouldn't have a problem per se about abandoning toxicity. But where I have a problem is that anything masculine is labeled toxic nowadays. And this is where I don't agree. Because what about toxic femininity? But to come back to my story, of course I got divorced after a few years. And there's a saying that goes along the lines of you only know your wife truthfully the day you're in front of the divorce judge. And trust me, this is so true. I was in front of the judge, and as a man, I was already labeled guilty, even though I didn't do anything wrong. Actually, one of the rare cases where I, the man, wanted to divorce. And women don't like that. And even if she wanted also a separation and a divorce, the fact that I brought it up first, she really didn't like it. So she made sure I would pay, and she went through a web of life. I was so shocked. I was like, this is the mother of my kids. I couldn't believe it. So much BS, so much lies. I was astonished, like my jaw was dropping in real time. I just couldn't believe it. Now, luckily for me, my cousin is an attorney, so he helped me because he needed some of my skills and I needed some of his skills. So basically, money was not an issue because I did not need money for the attorney services. But I'm thinking about all the rent I have to go through this, and they getting bankrupt financially just with the attorney fees. So luckily for me, I didn't lose everything, and the child support I had to pay was very reasonable, contrary to what my ex-wife asked. So basically, we agreed to a certain amount at the beginning just before we went to court, and then when we went to court, she asked 5 times that amount, which to be honest, I couldn't pay. It was already difficult. Actually, I had just lost my job. So it was really tough. But she couldn't care less. All she wanted was me to feel the pain. She made sure I understood that. And of course, I went from seeing my kids every day to seeing my kids every other weekend and then half the holidays. But that's not the worst because, to be honest, as a man, I believe that the kids have to be with the mother when they're young. So I wasn't too concerned about that. Of course, I felt the emptiness of just living alone, not seeing my kids, watch cartoons and this kind of stuff. But what was even worse was that I could see she was starting to brainwash the kids against me. And she never stopped that. That was the hardest part. Now, I'm not telling you this so that you can feel sorry for me because, to be honest, I'm living my best life. Actually, I wish I had done that sooner. I wish I would have left that miserable marriage sooner. Because today I'm living my best life. I'm enjoying life. I meet girls when I want. And these women are much younger and way more attractive than my ex wife. Now, don't get me wrong. She used to be a beautiful woman, but like every woman on the planet, you heard the saying that women age like milk and men age like wine. Now, you may find some exceptions, but this is the rule of thumb. I already made the rules, so if you're a woman and you're watching this, well, first of all, you shouldn't be watching this because this channel is for men. Of course, you're welcome to watch and listen, but I don't think you're going to enjoy the content. And second, well, I don't make the rules. Now, don't get me wrong, there are great women out there, and I'm not in the mindset of all women are bad because this is what you hear in the red pill community, and I can understand where it comes from. But the truth is, there are great women out there. You just need to find it. You need to know how to find these women, how to keep these women, and that's what you want because it's also perfectly fine to stay single. So how would I do it if I had to start all over again with everything that I know now? Well, first of all, I would read this book, How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne. And before you click off, no, I'm not sponsored by Corey Wayne. I'm just sharing a gem with you. I believe that there are a few books on this earth that can really change your life. And this book is one of them. And if you stay long enough on this channel, I will share some other books that changed my life. And even if you tell me that you don't like reading or that you don't have money to buy a book or you have no time to buy a book, forget about all this. Then just keep your shit alive and get off this video. But if you really want to make a difference in your life, first of all, you can get that book for free. Actually, Corey explains how to do it. All you need to do is subscribe to his newsletter and you can get the book for free. Okay, that was for the first problem. Now, if you're telling me you don't have time to read the book, well, guess what? You can also get the book on Audible, so you can listen to the book. And if you don't have an Audible account, or if you want to create a new account, guess what? Your first book is free, so you can get that book for free again. And next, if you tell me that you don't like reading, well, just imagine this. If I told you that by reading a book, you would get $1 million once you're done reading the book, I can tell you, you would read every single page, every single words, even the commas. You would read everything. So don't give me none of that BS and let's move on. So once you read the book, you should now be at a stage where you really start to understand how women behave. So at this point, you can start focusing on yourself. And then on the side, you can start practicing what you learned in this book. And as you start practicing, you learn how to recognize the red flags so that you don't get caught up with, let's say, the bad women. And I don't really like this term bad women because some women are actually good, but the behavior of some of us turn them into these monsters. And no, I'm not talking about bad guys that do bad stuff. I'm talking about the simps. No, not the Sims like the game. I'm talking about the Simps, S-I-M-P-S. See, I read this book when I was already divorced and I was going to hell and I was trying to understand how is it that I attract the women that I don't want and I cannot attract the women that I were. One divorce was more than enough, so actually I didn't want to get married anymore. But of course, after a few months as a man, you want company and then you want to get with someone. Well, at least that's how it was for me, and that's how it is for many men. And by going through this book a few times, which is not a book about tips and techniques, but it's really a book that teaches you the female nature and the male nature. Because let's face it, a lot of us did not have a man in our life to show us how to behave like a man. I was lucky enough to have a father that was this perfect male figure. I mean, this perfect in my eyes. He was a real man, but unfortunately, he left too early. There's a few things he could not teach me. And that's when this book came and filled in my gap. So I cannot say enough good things about this book. This book really changed my life, and I hope it's going to change yours. And remember, you can get it for free, so no excuse here. But the next thing that I would do is I would take my time. I would not rush with anyone. Like, and when I say I would take my time, even if you decide you don't want to get married, which I completely understand because I don't see the point of getting married today for a man, especially if you're living in the West, but I really don't see the point. But that's the topic for another video. But even if you don't want to get married and you think about maybe we could be living partners, take your time, man. If you think you're a man because you're 23, 24, you just got your first job, you start making money, you think, hey, we can live together. Well, think twice. Because in some countries, living together with someone is assimilated to being married. So basically, you get the same BS treatment at the end of the road. But that's not the only reason. One thing you should definitely do is start traveling. Why? Because traveling, you're going to meet other cultures, other people. It's really going to broaden your horizon. And as long as you don't do this, you're just going to see life through the perspective of where you came from, where you were born, your culture, your country, your city, and everything that's going on there. But once you start traveling, you're going to see, wait, in this country, women are behaving completely differently. That was my case. Started traveling, and I remember the first time I went to Southeast Asia. My God, I was so shocked. The women are so feminine. Now, Southeast Asia and Asia in general is big. So, of course, if you go to South Korea, it's a different story because feminism is really bad out there. And if you just look at the birth rate, it's the lowest in the whole world, 0.10 or something like that. And bear in mind that for a country to be sustainable, it needs a 2.1 child per woman. They have 0.7, but that's another story. But if we talk about countries like Vietnam, Thailand, or the Philippines, and I've been to all these three countries, I was just so shocked to see women that naturally feminine. They don't need a ton of makeup. They are sweet and willingly submissive. But don't joke with them. Get up doormats. But it's agreed in the culture they should look submissive and looks really sweet. And the counterpart, of course, is that the man should be a gentleman. And then you explain here, being a gentleman doesn't mean you are a nice guy. Because unfortunately, nice guys finish last. That doesn't mean you should be a douchebag, but you should find a compromise in between. A bit naughty, a bit gentleman, a bit of both, and you have to know when to use each persona. Again, food for thought and a topic for a future video. But you see, when I went to Southeast Asia for the first time and I see all these beautiful and naturally feminine women, of course it changed my perspective because these women were nice, approachable, stunning in terms of looks for the most part, and they didn't have that BS attitude that you would typically find in the West. Now, it's not completely perfect, and if you're a simp in the West, you will be a simp here, and you will actually be part of the problem. But the good news is that if you stick long enough on this channel, I will teach you how to leave the simp inside of you, how to completely do a 180 and live the simp world. But the lesson to learn here is that by traveling, you're just going to broaden your horizon, as I mentioned before. And now when you go back to your country, you're not going to take these BS attitude from these women because you know better. You know, okay, now I've seen these women in this country. If I stay in my country, I want someone with the same attitude. So now you're going to change your standards. Or maybe you will decide, like a lot of us, that you want to move away. You want to become an expat or a digital nomad or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not going to blame you because this is what I did. But I would still advise that you get some experience back where you live. You need some experience because, of course, you can move right away and become a digital nomad or expat. And I'm going to show you some path that you could take. But one thing you cannot replace is experience, even if it's just 2 or 3 years, but it's good to get experience first. And then once you get enough experience and now you have the knowledge of how women nature works, we can either stay in your country, find the woman of your dreams, if you believe in the one, which personally I don't believe in, and this is called one-itis or one it is. I don't know how you want to pronounce it, but personally I don't believe in that. I believe there are many the ones in your lifetime. Basically, my theory is that the universe is going to throw chances at you and you either take it or leave it. But what I learned from Corey Wynn in his book is that he was explaining that you get these chances, but maybe once every 5 or 10 years. So you want to learn the material, you want to learn female nature so that when the potential one for the next 10 years comes along, then you don't miss the chance. But to be honest, with this mindset that I'm trying to teach you, and it's not really teaching, I'm just trying to share my experience and what I learned. With this mindset, you will find out that your main focus in life is not going to be women. Women will just be the cherry on the cake. And that's the funny thing. When you're really focused on women, they can sense it and they're not attracted to you. But once you focus on your main goal, the exact opposite happens. It's like you became a women magnet because they can sense, they can feel that you have another focus. They can feel that you could leave them at any time. And it's not some kind of technique, it's really what you're feeling. You're really focused on building something for yourself. And this is pure attraction for women. It sounds counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. So what I want you to do next is just head to Corey Wayne's channel or website, and I will put a link in the description below, and just get the book for free. Start reading it today and start changing your life. Maybe there's anything you want to know about what I covered today or similar topics, just let me know in the comments, and if it can benefit the community, I will make a video about it. And in the meantime, stay focused.